Today we're going to unpack a single event that tells two completely different stories about the future of AI. It's a story about a high-stakes failure, a kind of hidden success, and of course, that fierce tech rivalry between the US and China. It's the question on everyone's mind in tech, right? And a recent stumble by one of China's top AI firms just gave us a fascinating clue. A clue that, you'll see, can be read in two totally opposite ways. So, this is the headline that got everyone talking. A major Chinese AI company, Deepseek, tried to build its next big thing using homegrown hardware from Huawei, and it didn't work. But that failure? That's not even the interesting part of the story. Okay, so let's start with the first way to look at this, the most obvious interpretation, that this was a clear, simple setback for China's AI ambitions.
So here's what went down. Deepseek, probably with a little encouragement from the government, tried to use Huawei's chips, but the whole project was just plagued with problems. For the hardest, most resource-intensive part, the training, the hardware just wasn't up to snuff. They had to give up and switch back to the American gold standard Nvidia. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Because here's the twist. They did manage to get the Huawei hardware working for something called inference. And to get why that one little word changes everything, we first need to understand what it actually means.
And seriously, stick with me here, because understanding this difference is the absolute key to the whole story. It's what lets you see this event as either a huge failure or, maybe, a brilliant long-term move. Okay, so think of AI training like this. It's like building a grand library and then forcing your AI to read every single book, article, and website in it to become an expert on, well, everything. It's this monumental, one-time task that takes an unbelievable amount of power. This is the really heavy lifting. Inference, on the other hand, is like walking up to that super expert librarian you just created and asking them a question. All the hard work, all the reading is already done. You're just using the knowledge. It's a much lighter task, and it's what happens every single time you use an AI.
So you've got training, the massive one-time effort to create the model. And then you have inference, the lightweight, constant process of using the model. So remember, Deepseek failed at training with Chinese hardware, but they succeeded at inference. What does that actually mean in the grand scheme of things?
While the first interpretation is pretty straightforward, this is a clear win for the US. From this perspective, the story is simple. China tried to build its own thing, and its technology just wasn't good enough for the most important job, training a world-class AI. It shows they're still dependent on American innovation, and it suggests that US policies designed to block China from getting high-end chips, well, they're working exactly as planned. Some analysts figure that Huawei's chips are roughly 2 years behind what Nvidia's got. Now, 2 years behind sounds like a lifetime in tech, doesn't it? But let's put that in perspective. That means you're using technology from 2023. I mean, could you get by with a top-of-the-line computer from 2023? Yeah, absolutely. It's not ancient history, it's still incredibly powerful stuff.
But there is a completely different way to read this situation. What if this wasn't just a stumble? What if it was the first, painful step in a much bigger, forced migration away from US technology?
See, from this angle, calling it a failure totally misses the point. The fact that Huawei's chips can already handle inference, the part most people actually interact with, is a huge achievement. This view says that US policy isn't just encouraging China to build its own system, it's forcing them to. And a setback like this, it just makes them want to run even faster. And here's the motivation, right? Chinese companies are looking at a future where they either can't get top US chips at all, or the ones they can get are intentionally weakened, gimped, as some people in the industry call them. And if you can't trust your supplier, you really only have one choice. You've got to become your own supplier.
And this all forces this massive, long-term question about something called the legacy system. And this concept, this right here, really explains what the stakes are.
I mean, think about it. Once your entire company is built around, say, Microsoft Windows, trying to switch everyone over to Apple's Mac OS is an absolute nightmare. The technology gets embedded, it's incredibly hard and expensive to change. Right now, Nvidia is the legacy system for the entire world of AI, but US policy is pretty much pushing China to go build a brand new one from scratch. And this gets to the heart of that second argument, and it's captured in this really stark warning from one of the sources we looked at. It says, as soon as they make that full migration to Huawei, they will never go back to Nvidia. Just think about that for a second. Once China builds its own ecosystem, it becomes their legacy system. The door to US tech doesn't just close, it gets bricked over.
And that leaves us with the big question. Was this a temporary victory for the US, proving its tech is still on top? Or was this the moment that forced a permanent, fundamental split in the global AI ecosystem? The answer isn't just going to define a rivalry, it's going to shape the future of technology for every single one of us.